Like, move over, SPF 18, okay? There's a new WORST Noah Centineo movie in town. This movie opens with like a pre-roll credits that shows the all-star cast that we are about to receive from this movie. I'm talking about Kalani from Dance Moms, which huge fan. Noah Centineo, God, and the mom from Good Luck Charlie, I guess? Okay. I'm sorry, Amy. Where have you been? Is no one hiring you? Is this what you have to do now? Can someone check on her? This is so just weird to me that this is where she is at in her career. Then within the first 20 seconds, I can already tell that like some lonely 40-year-old man who doesn't understand youth has written this movie, because we immediately get this scene.
I haven't said a word in 2 hours.
Oh, sorry, I was watching Simon Lang.
Simon Lang? When are you gonna interact with real people who are right in front of you?
So we are introduced to our main character, right? We get James, and he's a nerd because he has glasses. James is moving into his freshman year dorm, right? He's going to college, and we are kind of like given these hints that he's a nerd, you know, through everything that's presented to us. So he's talking about how he hasn't even talked to his roommate yet, right? Like he called him once and Noah Centineo was too cool to call him back. And we get Noah's name, which is like a cool man character, right? His name is Lance Black. Someone really wanted him to be a rebel, right? With the name Lance Black, you're telling me you didn't write him as a douchey character? All right. My favorite part about this moving in scene is the extra in the background who is like obviously instructed to just unlock his door while they're having the dialogue scene, but then the dialogue scene goes on for like 30 seconds. So we just get this guy in the background attempting to unlock a door and then giving up and having his girlfriend attempt to unlock the door and then still not unlocking the door. What is going on? I'm disappointed. And we are 1 minute in. Then we get Ashley, James's sassy younger sister, which, again, Kalani from Dance Moms. But anyway, we get like her going, Mom, we gotta go, I have a party. After they've unpacked James's dorm, I guess, because he has his comforter, his other comforter, and then like a bag with just one roll of toilet paper. So then we learn, before they leave, that James is good at coding, because they insert this dialogue seamlessly.
One day, I will code an app that will really make a difference.
James.
But don't worry, guys. This movie's not just gonna be about nerds coding an app. No. James has a love interest. Yeah. And we immediately know that she is quirky and different because she's holding a book and has a ponytail in. Hell yeah. And then we meet this guy when we meet Hannah, the love interest, who we know is a dick because he talks about how he uses his phone so he can use his dick. And this conversation between like Hannah and like the guy I just hate just like goes on for like 2-3 minutes, and then the whole time in the background James is just standing there next to a trash can holding a bag of candy and like watching her from afar like a stalker. And then as soon as the conversation is over, he has to walk home, and James like runs after her and is like, Hannah, and she's like, I'm reading, please leave me alone. Which, like, good on you, I guess. If you can walk while reading, I'm a little impressed, not gonna lie. So she's reading her book, and then we get the most romantic scene in this entire movie.
If you want to read, I'll watch the ground so you don't trip on anything else.
Okay.
At least
We also get like deep backstory about their relationship. Like apparently James sang the song to her at prom and like confessed his love during high school in front of like all these people. And Hannah's like, oh, you embarrassed me. God, you embarrassed me. We can never talk again. And then James is like, fine, I'll never sing again. And you think that that line is gonna come back and that at the end of the movie, he'll sing a song and he'll confess his love for her, but it is never relevant again. And then we immediately learn that Lance Black, the guy with the cool name, is like a baller, which no one expected, right? Because it's Noah Centineo and he has the name Lance Black. So we learn that he's a baller because James comes back to his dorm, you know, after stalking the pretty girl and walking her home. So he comes back to his dorm and it's locked, and Noah's like, no, dude, I have company. It is night 1. It is night one. And earlier, Noah leaves the dorm because he doesn't have any of his stuff unpacked. So you're telling me that Noah goes out, has no furniture, hits on a girl, brings her back to the dorm, and just has like nothing on his bed or anything unpacked, and she's just down with it because he's Noah Centineo? Okay. So then the next morning we get like a pan of the room, and I thoroughly enjoy this pan because we see her lingerie hanging over the edge of a bed. But then someone knocks at the door and she just gets up and is fully dressed in the exact same outfit we saw her wearing in the last scene, like nothing's happened. But sex is implied. It just leaves you guessing, I guess. I love that. So we finally get the first day of class, and it is a very small room with only 12 people in it, but every single character who we've met so far in this movie is in this one computer science class, so like don't worry, like you're not gonna get confused. It's okay. So they're all huddled in this very small room, and some actress that like I've definitely seen before is the professor. I just don't know her name, and I'm very sorry that she had to be in this low budget film. Like I honestly feel for her, because she was like obviously talented, and then these kids are just like obviously not. Sorry. It's the first day of class. She comes in and she's like, all right guys, you need to work hard because if you want to do any other computer science class, you have to pass my course. And everyone's like, all right. And then she just says class dismissed. Like the whole scene is like 30 seconds of her just being like, you have to work hard in my class and I don't take it easy. But day one is like a 30-second class where she just says that and then excuses everyone. Also, during this entire scene of her being like, my class is difficult, this one guy is just Googling pictures of cats on his like 2008 Dell desktop. Like, can we talk about that for a minute? Like each computer in this scene is doing something different and like none of them make sense. Oh, then we're at this library, right? And it's the college library, obviously. So like Lance is talking with his boys and like going around the library and like living it up. And he runs into this girl and she's like, Lance, do you remember me? And he just straight up is like, no. And she says that they slept together. And then my mind is like, you've been here for 2 days? You're telling me that a girl that you slept with in the last 2 days, you don't remember who she is? Like, okay, night one, you sleep with blonde girl. It is probably about noon on the second day. So not even 48 hours of being on this campus and you can't remember this girl? What? Like, I don't care how much game you have. There's no way. Like, I'm just, ugh. My God, I don't care if you're Noah Centineo, there's no way. So then Noah and his posse, well, I'm gonna call his goons because I think that encapsulates who they are. So Noah and his goons start like conceiving the best hookup app. And I guess it's not Tinder, which like it should be, I guess. In my mind, that's where I went, was like, oh, they're gonna make Tinder, but in a movie. Which like is fine, all right, I get it. Like the social network made Facebook, it's okay. They start talking about the best hookup app. And then the goon was like, we could make it, we're taking a computer science class, which like is already flawed. Like you've been in computer science for a week. I would calm down with that. So then Lance is like, no guys, don't worry. I have a roommate and he's a nerd because he has glasses. So he can code this all for us, all right? He can do everything. We don't need to work. Then we get the true treat of this movie, which is, okay, so there's a scene, I don't know if you guys have seen The Social Network, but there's this scene where the Winklevoss twins and like their one Indian friend who like has no character development have to sit Mark Zuckerberg down and like convince him to make Harvard Connection, which like later is Facebook, if you don't know the movie, obviously. So they like bring him to the Harvard Club and they sit him down and they're like this cool guy circle and they're like pressuring him to make this app, and you're like, ooh, like this is some good dialogue, like there's a lot of back and forth, and it's a really interesting scene. So we get a version of that in this movie. I think it's like someone watched The Social Network and was like, what if I did that, but worse? Like that's the whole concept of this scene, is that someone took The Social Network script and was like, I'll do it, but for $20. Like essentially. The guys start talking to James about what they want, and they're like, okay, we're gonna make a dating app, but it's not gonna be like other dating apps. This is gonna be a hookup app. And the thing that's different about our app is these 3 terms and conditions, all right? Bitches can't know your name, all right? They can't get a second date because we have too much game. And you can't date anyone on the app because this is a no-go, all right? This is just for hookup. And then James like seemingly doesn't have an issue with this at the time. He's like, okay, I'll think about it. You know what's the most confusing part for me with like these terms and conditions is that like the no names part just makes zero sense. Cause I get it if you're like, oh, I don't want like a girl to stalk me on social media. I don't want her to have my name so she can't get in contact with me. But like, can't you just use Tinder and like use a fake name? Like, is this really, you need a whole other app just so a girl doesn't know your name? Grow up! Like, what is going on? Oh, and James asked a question about the name thing, like the name thing that I'm confused about. He's like, why can't a girl know your name? And everyone just laughs, which like kind of annoyed me because I needed the explanation. As an audience member, I was confused. I needed someone to tell me why they can't just use fake names. Ugh, I hate this movie. So then we get a scene where James like goes home, but not home. It's like an airport. He's picking up his grandparents who have just gotten home from a honeymoon that they apparently take every year, and they're in a very affluent area, and like his grandma is carrying a Chanel purse, which like I'm very confused because in the next scene James talks about being poor and how he couldn't afford to go to all the like fancy colleges he got into. I don't understand. If your grandparents are super rich and then you later talk about how you lived with your grandparents, like why couldn't you go to Princeton and Stanford and MIT when you got in? Is it because your grandma needed to build her expensive purse collection? Is that the reason? Did her Chanel purse cost more than your college? So then, because we've gotten this backstory that like James is poor, of course, obviously, then we get the story that Noah's gonna pay him, like pay his college tuition in exchange for James building the app. I don't know a lot about computer science, obviously, not my major, not what I'm really interested in, but I have seen every episode of Silicon Valley, and I can tell you this shit, okay? It does not take one guy holed up in his dorm for a month to code an entire app. Like, he didn't build a single server, he just used whiteboards and like wrote down his ideas, and then suddenly, a month later, with little to no interruption, we have the app. We have Jungle, all right? And we move into what is part 2 of the movie, all right? Because I feel like this movie is more like a chapter of a show that never got greenlit. Like, there's an obvious arc, but it just seems very separated. We get this beta version of Jungle, which is the app's name, all right? And then Lance is like, hold on. There's no reason for people to switch apps. Like, there's no incentive for them. Oh, Lance is like, there's no reason for people to switch apps. We need to market this shit. Which, like, first good idea you've had, Lance. Thanks for showing up to the team. While James has been busting his ass magically coding this app in a month, you haven't done anything. Thank you for marketing, I guess? And then the only thing that happens with the marketing that magically makes this app just take off. Lance and his goons rounding up this group of like 7 guys who are aged 25 to 40 in this circle in the park and telling them that they need to get off the other apps. And that's all it took because Jungle's a success now. My favorite part about like the circle scene is that they're all just like sitting there and then Noah leads them in like this chant. And this one guy just gets really into it.
This is what it's all about. We don't have the time to know a girl's name. We don't have the time for them to know our name.
Who does?
We got school. Do you really want to pay for a movie? No. Or flower?
I'm going to say the C word. I know we don't like to say it, all right? Here we go. Commitment.
Like, Ponytail Guy, you're killing it. Like, you're the best extra in this movie.
Commitment.
So now we get to see the app from the girl's perspective, and we learn that Jungle suddenly has like all these new rules that weren't told to us before. Like, you can't call it meeting the guy or like a date, which, okay, I get it, if it's a hookup app, that makes sense. But also, girls can only make their profile pictures them in their underwear. Scandalous. And then we get Ponytail Girl, okay? Hannah's back. And like the other girls make some joke about how she's like a Christian and how that's like not cool. And then I'm like, oh my God. Like, I just had this light bulb moment. I'm like, that's why the movie's bad. It's Christian. Like, oh, every movie that's like vaguely Christian, it's just always super low budget and kind of shitty. And like, it all made sense now. Oh, then we get like the scene outside of a club, which is just a brick wall because they can't afford sets. So like Noah and his goons are standing in line at a club, and then the only good joke in this entire movie happens.
Who's got low self-esteem? This guy.
Shout out. Also, can we just talk about how the scoring in this movie is god-awful? Like, none of the music matches up with what's going on in the movie. Like, we get this one scene with, like, curly blonde girl who slept with Lance earlier crying about how her hookup was terrible. But in the background, there's, like, this vaguely poppy song about missing people. Why? Finally, we go home for the holidays, because no vaguely Christian movie is complete without Christmas. We are informed that James's mom is thinking about getting Jungle because she is meeting with her sassy girlfriends and she is talking about dating and hooking up and breaking into her ex-husband's apartment, you know, just girl things. And apparently one of them is a lightweight because while everyone else is toasting with wine, she just has like this very large glass of water. You're like, no, that's the one that's not fun. And then we are welcomed back to James's family mansion. Because they can't afford Harvard, but they can afford a $10 million home in what looks like Florida, I guess. The sound department like really splurged on the Nutcracker theme song because it is just blasted through like the next 20 minutes of this movie and like scenes that just don't make sense for the Nutcracker theme song. And then I feel like I'm like very poorly explaining this plot. I hope you guys understand what's going on. If you don't, I mean, you could always watch it. It's so fun. But we get the scene of them at like Christmas dinner, right? And then I'm again reminded that a 40-year-old man who doesn't understand technology wrote this movie because we get this scene.
Oh, Toast, while we're together tonight to have a dinner, it really means a lot more than just eating. These two people.
Also, apparently Good Luck Charlie's mom is like an alcoholic who has broken into her ex-husband's apartment multiple times and can't parent her children because that's fun.
Okay.
I'll be taking this.
Oh, you know.
Night, honey. Night.
I'll see you mañana. I will see you.
It's Christmas Eve or Christmas, or it is after Christmas because they do not specify it at any point what time in the Christmas holiday we are now in. But James's mom is leaving for her Jungle date. The date, sorry, not date, because we're not allowed to call it a date. Goes like really badly, and then she meets up with her sassy girlfriends again. Like, thank God they reappeared, am I right, guys? I needed them in my life. If this script needed anything, it was sassy 40-year-old women. Then they're like, you know, don't worry, sweetie. Get back on the apps, find yourself a man, like we'll help you. And then we get the first look we've seen at like the interface of the app we've seen all movie, and you immediately know why. It's because whoever made this movie can't decide what they wanted it to look like. Like, it is objectively bad. It is so terrible.
Huh, interesting.
Oh, my ex-husband, okay. Oh, what about this one?
Oh, she's cute.
And I guess he could have coded it in a month. I'll go for that now. But don't worry, because we still have the rights to that Nutcracker music, alright? It's just coming back, guys. Again and again. Never will I think about the Nutcracker theme and not associate it with Good Luck Charlie's mom being an alcoholic. Also, I love every interaction between James and his sassy sister, Ashley, because they're just awful one-liners that I think were supposed to be deep, but then both actors just can't handle it. Someone can't act here. So then, James can't stand his mom living her best life. He's like, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna shut down Jungle. So he just pops on his computer, goes, and then the app is down. And Noah Centineo is pissed. But don't worry, because people can go on other apps, right? She could just go on Tinder, and she says that. So you're telling me that with one keystroke, he hacks into every dating app, every single one, and shuts them down? What? Can't you just like, oh my God. Like, I try to think of other logical reasons as to like why her phone would be down. I'd be like, oh, maybe he like unplugged the Wi-Fi. Like, that would mess up a 40-year-old woman. She wouldn't be able to figure out the internet. But then like everyone's phone is down and you're like, holy shit, James hacked into every dating app and coded an app in a month and has made 17 apps? What? We are now in what I would like to call chapter 3 of this terrible movie that you should never watch, all right? So then the goons are pissed that the app is down. So they're like, okay, we're gonna go after James as soon as school starts again, right? So James is like locked up in his dorm room and hears this like banging at the door. And he's like, oh shit, like I gotta leave. So he just jumps out the dorm room window. And like we've already established that the dorm is like on the 3rd story, but he survives, it's okay. And then he's like running on the sidewalk and we get Ponytail Girl again, my favorite character. So he goes to Ponytail Girl and he's like, I need you to help me. We need to leave. I need to go somewhere. So she takes him to what presumably is like her sorority house, but it's never been mentioned before that she's in a sorority. And like magically every other girl character in this movie is also in that same exact sorority. And then the sorority girls are like, James, we'll only let you stay if you design a girl version of Jungle for us, because we want a girl version of Jungle. Like, what is a girl version of Jungle gonna change? Are the guys gonna post pictures of themselves in underwear? Is that the difference? Like, they're not distincting at this point that they want the app to like lead to relationships instead of hookups. They just say that they want a girl version of Jungle. Oh, and then we get like this very awkwardly preachy scene where James talks to the girls about how they should value themselves more and stop participating in hookup culture, because it's really awkward.
Girls, how you doing? Are you happy?
I mean, I liked my Christmas presents.
I mean, are you satisfied with life?
I had to study for a test. Sorry.
How's your love life? By love, I mean love. Not sex.
Honestly, not too good.
Do you feel like guys are using you as just a piece of meat?
That's exactly how I feel. Are you a psych major?
Do you want a guy to pursue you for more than just a swipe of his finger?
Yeah.
I'm trying to turn things around. Girls, I'm trying to help you get your power back. The catch is that if I give this app to you and explain to you how it works, then it's up to you to let it work.
What does that even mean?
See, it means that when you're dating a guy...
Sweetheart, let me stop you right there. None of us have been on a date.
Well, since when?
Since ever.
None of you?
Guys nowadays don't date you. They just sleep with you.
My favorite part of this is like how out of touch the writer is. Like, really? None of them have ever been on a date? Like, shut the I hate how people think our youth culture is just so anti-relationship. Like, there's no way you're gonna get to age of like, what are they? They're 30, obviously, but they're supposed to be like, what, 19 in this movie? And you're telling me they've never been on a date? Okay, sure. So blah, blah, blah. The goons get back to James. He gets like kidnapped back to his own dorm room because, okay. And then he's like, I'm gonna stay up all night and get this app back on, which took you 2 seconds to get offline. So like, it shouldn't be a huge problem if you really don't want to get your ass beat. Just like fix the app. So they're like staying up, he's coding it, Noah Centineo takes his shirt off because fan service, but also I feel like they blew their entire budget on casting Noah Centineo. Like, I feel like the conversation they had was, if we cast Noah Centineo, it'll be successful. And then they just never developed the script fully or looked into other good actors. They just like let it roll. But don't worry, guys, because James escapes again to the sorority oasis, and he goes in there. But no, the goons are after him. They know he left, because we couldn't have just put this in the last scene. No, James has to escape twice, okay? He needs to get away from those goons again. Like, the app is never resurrected, so the only reason I seen for the scene of him getting taken back to his dorm and then back to the sorority house was just so they could have Noah Centineo take his shirt off. Like, that is the only plot point that has any relevance at this point. They get to the sorority house and the goons like knock on the door and they're like, let us in. And the girls are like, no, we're empowered now. And then we get this like scene of cinematic gold.
You want him? Come and get him.
Oh, you know what? We got this thing with the stuff.
Yeah.
So we're gonna just head out, but
You know what? It
it's
looks
good to
like
see you.
looks like you girls can use your beauty sleep anyway. So
See you later.
I'm just gonna.
You look good.
Wesley. Okay, ladies. How about we just, talk this out over breakfast tomorrow on me?
Coffee and bagels, Lance? How about a gift card to Bagel Boys?
They're insane.
the ladies are gonna put their guys in their place. We get this full like female empowerment scene where they're like, you'll have to take me out to dinner first. Like, what do you want from these guys? They've made it explicitly clear that they don't want a relationship. Just move on. I'm very confused as to why these 3 guys are the only available men in this entire movie. And if you thought that the female jungle storyline was done because of that awkward speech and the female empowerment scene, you're wrong, because it's back. And we get another speech about hookup culture, but this time James talks about God, because this crappy movie really needed to roll up Jesus into this.
Ladies, it's been a real eye-opener living with you all these days. And I think I've finally discovered the ultimate dating app, and I'd like to present it to you right now.
Newsflash, the hookup apps are back up.
You're not even supposed to have your phone on.
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna listen to James and decide which app is better. What are you doing?
You are the app. Look, I know algorithms, I know biology, but there's nothing that I can code, invent, or create that equals what God has already created inside of you.
So we get another look at his mom, like, on the app, but somehow it's worse now. Like, now it's exclusively stock images, and, like, one of them is a stock image of a child.
Well, there is chili in the kitchen if you're hungry.
Are you eating?
No, I'm going out.
What? Then makes national news that the guy who coded the terrible hookup app with all the stock images is James. Like, how did that make national news? Like, we get this cutscene of like people on the radio finding out, and then it's on the television, and it's on another TV program. Like, why is it such a big deal? Like, if I found out that someone else than who I thought, like if Mark Zuckerberg, I guess that's too big of an option. Like, if I suddenly found out that the guy who coded Flappy Bird wasn't who I thought coded Flappy Bird, would I care? No? But anyway, it's national news, so I guess it's important. We're like, no, James is terrible because he coded this app. But don't worry, because he's going to use this opportunity to confess his love to Ponytail Girl, who now has let her hair down because character development. And they share one wholesome kiss, and everything's pure. If you're left with this nagging feeling of, what happened to Noah Centineo? Is he okay? He got a girlfriend. Like, the only part of his one-dimensional character was that he didn't want a girlfriend, and at the end of the movie, he gets a girlfriend. Okay, that is my half an hour thoughts, I guess, on the movie Swiped, which is just awful. You should watch it though. I've watched it twice now because I had to take all these notes on this movie that I hated because I needed to complain about it, and no one wanted to hear me complain about it. Like, I feel like this whole movie was just very ill-advised, and most of all, like, underfunded because they blew probably $500,000 on Noah Centineo. Thanks for listening to me. If you like this video, I guess nothing. I don't think I'll ever make one of these again. I just thought I needed to share my thoughts on probably the second worst movie I've ever seen in my life. First is still Jupiter Ascending. Jupiter Ascending takes the fucking cake, dude. Alright. Thank you. Bye.